get it going right, look. Cool. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Eddie Pyburn, born in the west end of Hare Island in 1935, the 13th of November 1935, which is going into 82 years ago. I went to school in Hare Island at the age of 6, we'll say, and I left school at the age of 14 and went fishing. Fishing was hard at the time in open boats, and we had a towel sail at night to cover us. We used to make, they were called towel sail yawls. And my main man fishing with me was an older man than me, was John McCarthy, otherwise known as John Bunny, the Lord of mercy on him, dead with years. And we was fish for herrings in the winter, and you was freeze with the cold, because we had no right heat or no right accommodation or anything, but we'd go at it. We'd always sleep during the night and we'd be tied onto our herring nets, and we'd be finding water going to sleep. We'd wake in the morning, the tools would be frozen with the frost and the cold. So we'd start hauling our nets, we'd be tied onto them for the night, and the nets would be full of herrings, and we wouldn't be long cold when we'd be sweating hauling the herrings. When we'd have all the herrings aboard, we'd make for Baltimore to the fish buyer to sell the herrings. The Lord of mercy and a soul, he's dead now, Jerry Sweeney. And the man that was fishing with me is dead too, the Lord of mercy and a soul, John Bunny McCarthy. So we'd sell our herrings to Jerry Sweeney in Baltimore and row home to the western end of Hare Island and go fishing again that night. And I was only going into 15, I was just past 14 years old. Worked hard for to make a living, get a few pound, would be lucky to make a pound for the night. So that's that much now for that part.
Okay, cool. You can, if you want...
Switch it off now, wait.
Yeah, it's off.
No, that's up to that herring fishing now.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'll carry on over the next, put it on again. I next went fishing with my brother Jack Pyburn, which is dead now. Lord of mercy on him. He come home from sea, he was going to sea in merchant ships, British merchant ships. He come home and he bought a fishing boat called the Mary Joseph, and we went lobstering together. Jack and John McCarthy, which would be the man I was talking about a while ago, his father, Ger McCarthy, Ger Bunny we was calling him. The three of us went night mackerel fishing, lobster fishing in the summer down off Kingsdale and Queenstown and Ballycotton and Port McSherry and all them places, fishing for lobsters. We'll start off in May and finish in September. And lobsters and crayfish were plentiful. Crabs were of course that time, because we couldn't sell no crabs. Nobody would eat them that time. They thought there was something wrong with crabs, but no, they were the best fish of the world. We used to have to dump them. But we'd fish the lobsters and the crayfish and dump the crabs, and we'd sell the crayfish and the lobsters to the fish buyers for... Lobsters were 35 shillings a dozen, they're selling by the count, about 12 by the dozen. And crayfish were £2 a dozen. And we'd make good money, because there was plenty of fish, but the price wasn't too good, sold by the dozen. We'd finish in September and come home, and my brother Jack, Lord of mercy on him, and myself, we'd go drying sand, sea sand from Hare Island up to Skibbereen River, up to the farmers in Skibbereen, And our main agent was Jack Minahan. He was known as Jack Diamond in our street. He had a pub. He had Minahan's pub in our street. He was our agent. And we'd bring the Mary Joseph loader with sand. She was carry 9 ton of sand, sea sand, and we'd only do that once a fortnight because the tides would only work for Skibbereen River. They'd only work every second week with high waters. One day we discharged our boat of sand in the steam quay across from the West Cork Hotel. The next day we might have to go up to Jack Diamond's in our street, Jack Diamond's pier, and discharge there. And we went how long to discharge it. With 2 shovels we'd have to discharge it out over the sand and go away again before the tide went away from us, because we couldn't afford to get caught. The next thing you'd be caught there and you'd have to stay there till tomorrow. Your boat would be in ground. But it was good work, but it was hard work in the winter time. The days were short and we'd be home. We'd be home for our dinner that night to the Hare Island, and then start away next morning again. So that carried on then for the winter. And next spring we'd start getting ready for lobster fishing again. We'd go lobster fishing in May. So I did that for a couple of years, and I went away to sea in the British ships, Merchant Navy. I left home when I was 17. I stayed fishing till between 14 and 17. And from I went away to Cardiff and joined a ship in Cardiff at 17. I had my 18th birthday at sea. And she was a big deep sea ship we were bound for Australia and New Zealand with general cargo. And we went out through the Panama. Our first port of call was a Dutch port, I forget the name of it, to fill our tanks with diesel. And then Panama Canal, through the Panama Canal and into the Pacific Ocean. And from there to Hawaii 50 Honolulu, and filled our tanks again. And the next stop was Wellington in New Zealand. With our general cargo, we went to both islands in New Zealand. Well, the North Island, South Island, Wellington and Auckland, and a place called Dunedin and Nelson. Dunedin was a Scottish port. It was the Scottish name for Dundee, and in New Zealand it was called Dunedin. When we finished in Dunedin, we went from there across to Australia, from New Zealand to Australia. And we was load grain in Australia and bring it back to New Zealand. We were doing that for a while. And the next thing we loaded grain for home, which we was called home, was London, back to the United Kingdom. And we loaded grain in a place called Geelong in Australia for London. And home through the Suez Canal. We went out through the Panama and home through the Suez, and up through the Mediterranean and into London docks. And we were away the best part of a year. We sailed around the world. Once you go out through the Panama Canal and circle around the world and come home through the Suez, which was 16,000 miles each way. You were 32,000 miles done. You got around the world trip done. So I was sail out of Cardiff. I come back to Cardiff and I didn't come home for that trip. It was away here, and I joined another ship in Cardiff after a week, both for Japan, a ship called the Caledonian Monarch. And I was the only Irishman on her. We went away again out to we loaded coal in the States in Newport News. And we went from there to through the Panama and away out to the capital of Japan, Tokyo, under the big mountain Fujiyama. We circled around with we were part of the cargo for different ports in Japan, Kawasaki, Yokohama, and Tokyo, and we had 4 or 5 ports in Japan. And when all our cargo was discharged in Japan, we went light ship across the Pacific Ocean to British Columbia in Canada. in Western Canada, British Columbia, a lovely part of the world. We went to New Westminster, Port Alberni, and we done a good few ports in British Columbia, loading wood for England. So we when we were finished with in Canada loading dresswood for England, we had to bring it back to Avonmouth in England. Come back through the Panama again. That was my second trip to sea. We were away about 9 months in that trip. So I come home then after that, paid off in Avonmouth. So that's my story for a while now.
Perfect. Perfect.